welcome to the TDS Talking Early Years podcast. Each week we'll be joined by educational experts from across the globe offering exclusive insights, inspiration and guidance to help practitioners unlock the potential of learning in the early years. Hello and welcome back. I'm Alistair Bryce-Clegg and I'm with Samantha Dholakia, and we are talking about emotional regulation in the early years and also how that helps to build resilience. So in this episode, Sam, can we have a little bit of a think around the term emotional intelligence? Can you just unpick that a little bit for us and how that applies to early years children?
Absolutely. I think this is, I'm going to be bold here, Alistair. I think this is the most important skill that we can teach our little humans. And I think this because it literally informs everything we do. Right. When we think about behaviour, when we think about all of the learning that we want our children to experience, emotional intelligence is how they access that. So the thoughts they have drive the emotions that they have, the emotions they have drive the actions that they take, and that gives us our results and the responses that we get from them. So if we're thinking about emotional intelligence, we're thinking about their emotional understanding, we're thinking about their ability to empathize with a situation, with their friends. We're thinking about the effective communication of that. We're also thinking about their social skills and how they're able to interact with their peers. So it really does impact everything. And then, even to take that even further, we're looking at that self-awareness. And have they got that self-awareness? The answer to that is mostly no. When we're looking at the early years, no, they do not. And that leads to that ability to self-regulate the emotions they're experiencing and the intrinsic motivation that we want for our learners, because we do not want, and again, another topic that I could talk about for hours and hours on end is, the external motivators that we put into our practice, stickers, charts, that sort of jazz. But actually, by externalizing, is that a word? I might have made it up. I'll put it in the Sam dictionary.
No, it's good.
If we're putting things in the environment that means that they're externalizing their motivation, when it comes to doing things independently without those things, they lose that intrinsic motivation. They lose that inner drive. And then where are they left? They're left with the quest of loneliness, that kind of that missing piece, because they're always looking for that reward. And I think when we break emotional intelligence up, we're looking at as a skill set for us as practitioners is, can we attune? Can we teach attunement? Can we get children understanding each other? Can we set up and create that connection with our children and facilitate them connecting with each other, that bonding process? And then can we communicate it in a way that's useful to them so that they can learn how to communicate it to each other?
Okay, so let's be bold, because we've been bold in this podcast. We've already decided that. So I think the sticker industry is kept alive by teachers, and especially in the early years. I mean, if it doesn't move for more than 30 seconds, stick a sticker on it. I think, again, the culture of being an early years practitioner or even being a teacher is around that's how you reward good behaviour. And I think the idea is, if I am not compliant, but I see somebody else getting a sticker, that'll make me want to get a sticker, so therefore I will comply. And it also teaches the children who are compliant, you get a very visible external reward for your compliance, which makes you comply more. Yeah. So if you were in charge of education and the agenda item was to sticker or not to sticker, the really important stuff. Actually, it's quite important. Would you say, for you, it's you just wouldn't have stickers, stars, external behaviour charts, anything like that?
There are two places you will find me using stickers. The first is on all of my stationery to label them.
Of course.
And the second is what we refer to as a balance basket. Stickers are great. Stickers are great for self-reward. They're great for fine motor skills. They're great for sensory input, because you can get smelly ones now. You know, they're amazing.
Who wants more than that?
Who do you want more? You know, what more could you want in a sticker, right? They're the only places that you will find stickers for me. And the reason is because I don't want compliance. I want collaboration. I want excitement. I want joy. I want children to love being with me because we're well connected, because I'm teaching them the stuff that they are going to enjoy, and that's great and exciting, and we're on a journey together. And I want children to be present because they feel that inside, not because I'm dangling a little carrot, you know. And I think that is the difference between the traditional approach and certainly the approach that I'm working on supporting, you know, now through we've created the behavior balance system, which is a non-behavior system, if you like. But it's all about how we support intrinsic motivation, how we support children in understanding what their needs are internally so that they can move forward and achieve and thrive without us, you know, with a carrot or a stick. Because I think that's the other thing, isn't it? If you've got the carrot, what comes with the carrot?
Yeah, there's always a yin to a yang, isn't it? So I'm in complete agreement with you. So I'm going to ask the question that everybody listening will be thinking. So if you don't give stickers, what do you do?
So this, I mean, again, I could talk on this for days, years, certainly decades. I will be. And when we're thinking about stickers, we're thinking about that idea that we're rewarding good behaviour. Now, this, again, going to be bold, Alistair, here we go, but I do not believe there is any such thing as good and bad behaviour. I do not believe that. I believe there is only behaviour that is ignored or not noticed in time, that is showing us what's happening internally. So, for example, you know, that whole statement of behaviour being the ultimate communication, because I do believe that it is. If we are looking at low-level disruptive behaviour in our classrooms, meeting the need before it escalates is really, really important. But let's face it, guys, you know, we have a class of 30, more in some cases. How do we do that for every individual? And the answer that I give for that is that we teach it. And we set up an environment that facilitates that. Now, within the behaviour balance system, we have our behaviour balance zones, our balance baskets. They are sensory input. They are activities that, you know, calm the nervous system or generate energy where necessary, because, you know, we don't want passive learners, we want engaged ones. We don't need to facilitate a calm classroom all of the time. That's not going to be sustainable. And also, we don't want passengers. We want people that are ready to rock, you know. So actually, energy needs to be high in some points and lower in others. So we need to work with that. So we set up a behaviour basket and a behaviour balance system in the classroom, whereby if our children feel the urge to do something, they understand that urge, they recognise it, we teach them about the urges that they're getting, and they can fulfil the need rather than trying to get our attention so that we can fulfill it for them. And I think this is a huge shift. You know, it's a massive shift in how we approach behaviour. It's a massive shift in how we set up our classroom activities, because ultimately we want independent learners. And to facilitate that, we need to give them the independence. And sometimes as teachers, we like the control.
Tricky. And again, we made that point in the previous podcast about if we are, especially in the early years, if everything's from the carpet to a structured activity, back to the carpet to a structured activity, it takes away that independence. But also, I know, and again, we could talk about this for hours, there's been a huge, over the past maybe 5-10 years, big push in the early years that everybody is Hessian back to everything. If it doesn't move, wrap it in Hessian. And again, there's a bit of a pushback against that. Like, Hessian back to everything is really dull. It looks like somebody's died, or it looks like the inside of a Weetabix packet. But actually, the thought that your environment and how it looks also impacts on how your children emotionally regulate as opposed to behave. So really vibrant, really brightly coloured, really patterned, really all going on environment actually probably isn't the best. But as you're saying, what you don't want, because it's often as worrying when you've got children who comply with everything. So those really, 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 really well-behaved children who never put a foot wrong and just live in constant angst of getting it wrong. They're as much of a concern as those children who are struggling to be able to develop their emotional regulation. Yeah. So how your space looks before children even walk into it is going to impact on that. And then, as you're saying, your view around your day, your activities, your interactions, the adults, the kind of vibe of the room. I mean, if we all come in and we sit on the carpet, the first thing we do after we've kind of rolled in through the door full of like, isn't life wonderful? An adult says, right, sit in the carpet, cross your legs, fold your arms, be still. And now let's talk about days of the week. Now let's talk about the weather. Now let's see who's having a school dinner. Now let's count around the circle and see how many people are not here. Now let's do a phonics input. Little wonder by that point you are literally fizzing like a bottle of pop. Because as adults, we would be, if that's how our day started at work, you would be yawning, looking out the window, thinking I could be doing a million better things than this. But yet we do that with children who've got the least self-regulation of all of us. So it seems to be a bit upside down and back to front.
And then, when they do try and self-regulate, because it's not been taught as a skill, we class that as bad behaviour. So if we've got little Sam sat on the carpet for a little bit too long, and all of a sudden she's, twiddling with the little girl in front of his hair, maybe pulling it a little bit for a bit of connection. Hey, talk to me. I'm, bored here. That then makes, little Sam's behaviour is bad all of a sudden. But actually what little Sam is trying to do is connect with the person in front of her or beside her or anyone, because she's, not spoken for 40 minutes or what have you, and it's hard not talking. And then on top of that, she's sitting in a position that's really uncomfortable. So, it's just about kind of thinking, right, is our environment, is it too loud in sense of, close the door, physically loud? Yeah. Is it too vibrant? Are we overstimulating the brain? Because, and I love colour. I am, you see my calendar, it's like a fireworks going off. I love colour, but my husband, on the other hand, we have a joint calendar. He doesn't love it so much. He's like, what is this? For his sensory input, he's like, no. And I think acknowledging that is going to be the case in our classrooms with our 30 plus children or what have you, is really important. So we don't want everywhere Hessianed. We want sparks of colour, but we also want to be able to provide a space. This is why we have the balance zone, the physical balance zone. We also have an online balance zone for ongoing CPD and stuff with resources for it. But when we look in our environment, what we want is a place where if our children are feeling like they need to move or they need to like wiggle around or they need to tap something, they can go to a safe space and they don't feel bad, literally, I'm bad, by doing that. They feel a sense of, I can do that, I'm going to go and release the energy and I'm going to come back, everything's good, my teacher doesn't all of a sudden think I'm the worst person in the classroom, and they can manage that independently in a way that then they'll take into adulthood, they'll take throughout their school life. And I personally believe, truly 100%, every cell in my body believes, that if we can create an environment, an education system that promotes that, we will have the best education system in the world.
Absolutely. And not all it takes, but some of what it takes is just the reevaluation of what's important. Yeah. And thinking about the fact that actually, if somebody comes, I think part of it as well is the judgments are made by senior leaders, judgments are made by people like Ofsted who come in, and if you had a child who was tapping away while you were talking, or a child who had their hands in the construction basket, they'd be saying your behaviour management wasn't, what we want are people that recognise that actually that is way more effective than this legs crossed, arms folded, because what you're getting is comfortable learners that are highly engaged, that are taking on what you're saying, that feel emotionally connected with the space. Because again, how you feel about learning is way more powerful than anything you ever learn. Yeah. So if I feel like I don't like being here, this carpet's really hard and it's itchy on my legs because I've got a skirt on with knee socks and I'm having wool rash from this ridiculous carpet. And also that thing of, I know you said before, when a child is not conforming, and often as adults, and I've done it a million times, have said, right, Sam, up you get. Go and sit next to Chloe. Chloe, can you just show Sam how we sit? Then not only have I publicly humiliated Sam, but Chloe's now got massive stress of, but what if I can't show? And what if she
perfect now?
Exactly. So then that's a whole, and it's this, and it's just traditional techniques that we're taught that actually are based on what we understood then, and we understand so much more now. So it's just shifting that. But like in everything else, education is massive. Policy drives it, which is massive. It takes quite a long time to turn that ship, which is why we need people on a crusade like you and I who can help to try and turn it a little bit faster.
Absolutely. I always say we only know what we know, and I look at every human like that. And I think if we can look at all of our class like that, and each other and our leadership teams and Ofsted, and, we all know what we know, and we all want to do the best we possibly can. No one goes into teaching not wanting the absolute best for their children, and for society. I've never met any teacher or educator or childminder or, anyone that works with children that hasn't got the biggest heart. Yeah, everyone has such a gorgeous big heart, and I think that actually it's just bringing the heart and the brain together, right? We just want to create that we want to educate and train and support them in a way that works, that they can then replicate with their children, so that they can feel that heart, because there's nothing worse, and I'm sure you felt it before as well, there's nothing worse than feeling, that big heart of wanting to do the very best you can for the gorgeous class that you have, that even those challenging Sams, that are like bouncing around in the classroom, and you're like, oh my goodness, you just want the best for that Sam too. So it's about kind of, I guess, helping teachers create that and feel good about themselves along the way, because I think actually a lot of the staff that I've worked with have not had that experience. They don't feel good about themselves because they feel like they're constantly getting it wrong, because they're trying, just like, the square pegs and that sort of thing with the children. We do it with our teachers too. We're trying to fit all of these teachers through the same holes, and actually, as human beings, we all have our own space on the puzzle board. We don't all fit in other people's spaces. So it's about kind of acknowledging that for ourselves as grown-ups, as well as for our kids in our classrooms. And I think we need a break.
Yeah, and when practitioners I work with, when we find out more about this kind of stuff and they see it and know it, they're a bit like, that makes so much more sense. So if I just did that, then that wouldn't happen, because they wouldn't respond like that. I wouldn't get stressed. It wouldn't all go to pot. So actually, I am happier. I am more chilled. I feel more informed, and my children are happier. And I feel like I am coaching their emotional regulation, things like resilience. Whereas before, I just felt like I was fighting against children who weren't behaving. So I think that penny drop moment can also be a massive release for practitioners and make their lives a little better.
Absolutely. And I think it gives that sense of security and that sense of belonging in your classroom. And we all know that when children have that, going back to, even hierarchy of needs, bit of Maslow, when children have that, when they feel like they belong, when they feel like they're collaboratively learning rather than, being taught, I think that impacts their resilience. It impacts their self-confidence, their self-esteem. So all of the things that we want for our children as they grow is impacted through how we approach the environment and through how we co-regulate the environment. Because of course, if we're feeling good and our nervous system is nice and calm, then we have 30 little nervous systems right there mirroring us back. And that's what we want. We want kind of that experience for them as well as ourselves.
Which is a fantastic lead into our next episode, where we will be talking about co-regulation and building relationships. But for now, once again, fascinating stuff, Sam. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Alistair.
I'd just like to say a huge thank you to our guest, Sam, for joining us and providing such interesting and valuable insights. You've been listening to the TTS Talking Early Years podcast with me, Alistair Bryce-Clegg, and Sam Dholakia. And if you've been inspired by our conversation today, then don't forget you can sign up via the link in the episode notes to be the first to hear about future episodes and access exclusive follow-up content, including ideas for your setting and links to relevant resources.